We're live. Okay. Hey crew. Today I was looking at some forum posts. This one by Ben15 says, still not sure the logic behind it since fixed width seems to me like it should obey what is designed in the what you see is what you get editor. So that's sort of the point I want to address with today's live UI building. And what you see is what you get is not necessarily Bubble's method of displaying data. And the reason for that is because displaying UI elements, DOM elements. And the reason for that is because you have here a desktop and a tablet mode and a mobile mode. And if we were designing in what you see is what you get, we would end up having 3 different editors. And Bubble, the way that they do it is they allow you to be responsive. So we're going to try to recreate a sort of a screen that works on mobile, tablet, and desktop using a brand new app, the same way that you would go in and create a new app and see how it goes. So let's get started with a blank page and close the assistant to remove all that stuff. And this is what I mean by it's not what you see is what you get. So currently our width is 1200 pixels like this. And if I hit preview, this is the only time you'll see the editor be a what you see is what you get. So it should be, whoops. Okay, so we start full width now. Sorry, if we do fixed width, which is how it used to start, we're going to get at a zoom level of 0, we're going to get a 1200 pixel wide page. Now, if I edit here and I place something like a button here, exactly 45 pixels from the left, it will always be 45 pixels from the left when I hit my preview because this is fixed width. Now, if I go into responsive mode, now we're 45 pixels from the left, and as we go bigger and bigger and bigger, we're always 45 pixels from the left of the actual main page element, not of our viewport. To allow it to expand to the viewport, then we have to uncheck fixed width and go full width. And when we look at it, you'll see that the green will take up the whole width of the page naturally. And this is 45 pixels from the left of the viewport. That's cool, but what happens if I put another element right here that's really long, and that's fixed width, okay? If we do that, we're gonna have this guy right here. He's gonna stay here, but this guy, because it's fixed width, is affecting the distance of this one from the left because of the way Bubble handles margin in responsiveness. Okay, so now you'll notice it's not 45 from the left. And when I make it small, so on mobile, this guy right here is going to snap down because there's no more room. There's not enough room for both of these elements to live on the same line. Okay, and the last thing that I want to show you before we get started is the way that Bubble builds out their DOM elements responsively. So you'll see a div class of a Bubble rline, and that's what Bubble renders. I think with JavaScript, I'm almost certain when it renders, it's going to render a line with all of the elements that can fit on it, and then if they can't, it'll pop it down and render a new rline, as is the case right now, with the right amount of padding on top, the same amount of padding as it was in the beginning. So here you have a padding of 69, a padding of 69, and here we should see if we inspect this Bubble rline, a different padding here. The yellow part should be 69 pixels because it's snapped down. Okay, I hope that's making a little bit of sense. Now let's make it wide enough for both of them to fit. And now we should have lost the extra rline and only have the Bubble rline with both of the divs inside. Okay, both of the box divs inside. So the way it works is Bubble generates first of all an rline fitting everything that goes inside of it, and then our boxes for the left and the right, and that's how their responsive editor works. They calculate how much room each element needs and decide whether or not they need to add an rline and put these elements in here, or keep the rline and keep the elements inside at the same height. So by definition, you'll never get a what you see is what you get editor. And today I'm going to show you how to fit stuff responsively and the 2 different ways that I use to build it. So let's go back to flat color of, let's go like F0, just so we can see white groups and it should look nicer. And let's go to our design here. And what we want on desktop is 2 major divs, one here and one here. And this will be a shopping cart summary, and this will be your product photo. But we're actually, I think, going to build out the product view screen, and we're going to make it fit on every device. So, sorry, a photo of the item, a description of the item, and some price and quantity that we're going to allow to snap up here to the left, and then to the right. And when we have a mobile view, we're just going to have the product itself and the ability to add and the description below. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to build. So the first thing we need to do is outline what our major groups are, which is 1 and 2. And then we're going to need to outline inside the description, the quantity, and the photo. And then on mobile, we're going to need to make all of those snap properly. Okay, so let's go here and let's start with our 2 groups. So our width is 1200, so our 2 groups naturally are going to be half and half, right? And regardless of margins, you need to build your base groups exactly the way that you want them to show up in proportions, in ratios, not in pixels. So in 1200, we're going to divide that by 2. So we're going to go with a width of 600, and that's going to be our left group. And then again, on the right-hand side, another width of 600. This is our shopping cart summary. So we're going to go ahead and add text here and say shopping cart summary. And then on the left, we're going to have our product. So we're going to write product summary. Okay, just so we know which block is which and how they move around. I don't need to style this text yet. I don't need to align my margins or anything, because these will be eventually turned into titles or removed. Next, inside here, we need 3 groups, right? That's what we said. Let's go back and look at those 3 groups. The first one being the picture. The second one being the description, which is not here. So this is, when you look at stuff on Dribbble and Behance, if you're going to try to recreate it, you usually can't recreate it exactly because of the way that designers work. They'll present you with whatever screens they want and look good. And you, as a actual visual designer, have to reconcile that with the UX and the experience you want your user to have. That's what I mean by UX. And make sure that all the information is available to the user. So these are nice, but they are not real. So keep that in mind. You wouldn't be able to use this app because where's the description, right? And when you're here, where's my shopping cart summary and what do I click for the shopping cart summary? Here we have 3 different titles. We have a description, a video, and it looks like reviews. And this will change this pane, which I think is a really good idea. And you can actually replicate that functionality below, so we'll keep it. But here, I don't know where I can see the description, and I don't know where I can see the video or the reviews for this product. So the designer omitted them entirely from here. So we're gonna reconcile that, and we're gonna make it look like this. So here, we need 1 main for the photo, and we need 1 for the triple view, so the description, video, and ratings. And we're going to go ahead and put that in here. This is the product summary. And all of a sudden we have, again, divided by 2, or we could start building top to bottom like on mobile. So I prefer to build top to bottom like on mobile, but I'm going to show you the pros and cons of both right now. So here, I can build this divided by 2 is 300. Okay, so already a 300 width is a little bit scary because some devices are the minimum device, I think, is going to be 320. There are some devices that are a little bit smaller, but below 300 there aren't any. So you can build 300, but keep in mind that you have to build very small. You don't have a lot of room here to build inside if you build this way. And I don't think that it'll ever be displayed at this resolution of 300 in width. It'll usually be a little bit wider. And if you build like this for your desktop, your divs might end up being smaller than 300. So I'll give them some colors, and we're going to show you in the responsive editor what I mean exactly. So here's our orange group and our yellow group. In here, we're going to put a product photo. So I'm just going to upload a quick image, and we're going to talk about the responsiveness of the image after. But I just want it so I can show you what I mean inside the responsive editor. So we're going to pick whatever image. It's not really important. I don't have that many product images actually. And you'll notice when you re-upload a photo, it resets the ratio to uncropped. So holding down shift, we're going to drag that out until it's 300 by 300, so perfectly square. We like perfectly square pictures. And here you'll notice all of a sudden in my responsive editor, my orange group dropped below my yellow group. And that's sort of what we want, right? Because if we're at a certain width, we're going to be looking at it on mobile, and we want this group with the 3 panes and the description, reviews, and video to be below the actual product picture and description. That's good. But as we get wider, you'll notice it pops up, also good. So this is all right. Now the first thing we need to do is uncheck fixed width. And now you'll see you have a minimum width of 20. So the problem with that is if it's not fixed width and it has a minimum width of 20, when I make it very small, these will collapse at smaller than 300. So I don't want that. I have to say, make sure that your minimum width is actually the widest minimum width it can get. And this is where it starts becoming a little bit of an art to use Bubble instead of using other what you see is what you get editors that are designed for mobile or that are designed for desktop, is that you have to take into account that your width will be 300 before it snaps down. So it can get quite small, and if you want this group to be larger than 300, say 320 as a minimum, then you have to build them top to bottom like I'm about to show you. But relatively, most instances you can build like this side by side as much as possible, and it's fine. Okay, so now we have our shopping cart summary, our product summary, our product. This is going to be called our product description, and this is going to be called our triple pane. It doesn't really matter right now. I would probably take a little bit more time in deciding what I would name these things. If another developer would have to look at them or whatnot, but currently I think this is our best bet is to just do it quickly. Now the way that I would build is I would take these two and I would put them at 320 because I like building at the minimum width and letting it expand out. 300, as we have to do here, is too small for me to develop in. I prefer to develop in 320. Even those 20 pixels, especially when you're dealing with margins, is a lot of room. Or we could even build wider than that and let it collapse inwards. So those are the two ways of building in Bubble. First, this is the build for mobile. Let's group these two into a group. And now this group, the bottom one, we're going to call it Collapser. And we're going to make sure that Collapser always touches the edges of its parent by going to responsive, clicking on here, selecting first parent. And the Collapser here, you'll see Edit Collapser. If we put collapse margins when the container width is less than, and we put a high number, it'll always take up the full width of its parent, right? So now we built for mobile, but on desktop, we're going to make it still look good. So desktop right here. Let's allow this to wrap up. So now we have the exact same scenario that we had before with our product summary on the left and our triple pane here on the right, except that when it reaches a certain width where these guys are at their minimums, which is 320, it'll snap down. Regardless of whether or not we have a desktop or a mobile, it'll snap down. Okay, so here on tablet, let's say 768, we're going to have our product summary, our triple panes, and then we can keep our shopping cart summary on the right hand side. Is that necessary? You decide. As UX designer, you have to choose whether or not this is what works for you. But here in our tablet mode, we have the triple panes here, so we're going to actually make it work like that on tablet at 768. Why does 768 matter so much? It's because it's the most popular, not width, but relative display resolution for tablets, 768. Your bigger tablets like the iPad Pro and the Kindle Fire will be larger, and most of your tablets like the older iPads or the Samsung series of tablets and the Surfaces will be at 768. You could check those out for yourself later, but now what we have on 768 is that we have our shopping cart summary taking up too much room, and then this guy right here is snapping down because it's past its minimum width. So I don't want it less than 316 pixels because I don't think that you'll be able to, with the margins, read properly if it's less than 316 or 300 pixels. So we definitely need this guy to be able to collapse up. Now we have two options. We can either make this guy wrap below it. Or we can remove this guy altogether, the shopping cart summary. And on tablet, add a little thing that will allow us to go to our shopping cart in our header. And I prefer that option. Why? I don't know. I'm doing a live, so I don't really have time to think about it. And I'm just going to go add hiding rule at 768 and save. And you'll notice that our little where we're going to have our triple panes is going to sit on the right, just like in this example right here. Our triple pane sits here, and then eventually on mobile, we want it to snap down underneath the product photo, which we pretty much set up already. Let's go like this. So at 592, which is, I think under 600 pixels, you don't have a lot of devices until you hit 412, which is the wide devices like the Samsung the Notes and the wider phones. So at 412, this is what it's going to look like. We're happy. And on tablet at 768, this is what it's going to look like, and we're happy. And then wider than that on desktop or on the iPad Pros and such, this is what it's going to look like, and we're happy with that. Because remember that tablets are usually used, well, I'm not saying they're usually used in this orientation, but it's common for a tablet to be used in the portrait orientation, and we'll get a cutoff about here on the actual viewport. Okay, so we have our product, our triple panes, and our shopping cart summary if we want to add it to cart and then go to other places. I don't know that that's really good UX. I would rather not see my shopping cart until I add the product, sorry. But that's what it is. Anyways, now we have to build out our little pane, our three little panes here, which I'll show you how to do with custom states. We have a picture. We have to add this little product thing underneath with what else? Doesn't matter. So let's just go ahead and build that out really quick, and then we can take another look at what we want to do responsibly. So let's go group, and let's add a block. And in this block, underneath the product picture, we're going to be able to add to cart right away. And we're going to do a little bit of talking about styles and how to use the style editor in Bubble, and then we're going to basically leave it alone. So let's remove style. Let's make this green, and let's make this touch the top here. And I'm assuming that this is how much room I need, 78 to 80. It'll probably be, yeah, that's probably accurate. And then underneath, we want the other pane to be exactly the same height as these two put together. So it's going to be the parent, select first parent, and the first parent is 400 pixels, just because we like round numbers. And then this one is going to be the same height of 400, so that this matches that. Then we're going to put a bar on the top of this one, and this is going to be our little menu for our triple pane. Let's go with blue. Okay, and then underneath we're going to have a number of different groups, and we're actually going to have 3 groups. And let's go ahead and put that up here, and we're going to talk about option sets, obviously, because option sets are a new thing in Bubble, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about them in this live UI video. Right now I'm copying groups. I'm going to make them different shades of gray, leaning towards blue, I guess, because we have 3 panes, like we said, and we're going to need to make them appear and disappear. Okay, try pane, this is what? This is 400, we leave it like that. We go to responsive and we say, okay, now we have our picture, our add to cart, and we're gonna have description, whatever, but you'll notice here the green group is not expanding properly into its parent, and this guy is not expanding properly into its parent either. So let's uncheck fixed width, and now we have a wide picture. And let's uncheck fixed width, and now we have a green group that follows its parent, and that's going to be the add to cart stuff. So this is a good look for us. On mobile, it's a good look for us as well. But you'll notice this is not mobile. I don't think there's a phone with a relative display resolution of 600 and above, but on 412, where the notes start, that looks pretty good. Okay. So we have another option with the image. If you're asking your users to update images that are a specific ratio, you can check keep element proportions and always keep it at the same ratio. I prefer the look. I find it always gives it just enough breathing room, but there are edge cases where it doesn't necessarily look good, especially if you're letting these guys expand out. Let's select the first parent here, 316, 316, and its parent though. Why is it no longer snapping up? Nope. Who was it? I forgot who was snapping up with all these groups. It should have been the triple pane, no? That snaps up against the select first parent, the product description. So let's go to responsive. Let's grab the triple pane. It is the triple pane, and it's supposed to wrap up like this when the page is stretched. What's your first parent? Collapser. And your first parent? Group A. Okay, so Bubble decided it wanted for this to not work. Select first parent. I'm gonna say it's Bubble, but it's probably me. Let's find the mistake. Okay, select first parent. This is the product description, and this is the triple pane. And if I move the triple pane down, it moves every group that's inside. None of them are fixed width. Let's go responsive. This guy should snap up though. Okay, let's go 20. Select first parent. I see. Product description is wrapping up. You don't need to wrap up. Select first parent. Collapser doesn't need to wrap. That's good. So why is this one not wrapping up properly? I see. So Bubble decided to connect the two of them together, and something is happening that's making it not work. So instead of having a collapser and both, no, I need it. Okay. So you'll notice that it worked until recently with the extra groups, I think, made the difference. So let's go ahead and remove those and see if we can get it to wrap up properly like we had it working before. Yep. Okay, so the triple groups for some reason are maybe that their minimum widths or something weren't working out for us. So let's go ahead and add them back in. Let's just add one and make sure that it works, and then we're gonna add the other 2 or 3 in there. Not fixed width and not fixed width and wrap. So far it's still working quite well. Minimum 316. Also, you'll notice if you put the percentages for 2 groups that are supposed to follow each other, they have to have the same minimum width, because if you give one of them a different minimum width, they're going to not follow each other definitely in terms of width. So if you have 99 on one of them and you want the other one to be the same size, it also needs 99. Okay, so now it's, like I said, not a what you see is what you get editor, but it looks pretty good on all resolutions, right? Here's our mobile, here's our wide mobile, or and our tablet landscape, our tablet portrait mode, our tablet landscape mode, our desktop, and wider desktops. And on a 4K screen, it's going to look like this, okay? With a very, very big picture. So we definitely want to give this guy collapser. Let's give it a max width. And let's give it a max width of about 640 is good. So let's go 200%, and then it'll get at 640, and then we'll just keep that centered here. And maybe we could give this guy a max width eventually. We'll figure it out. Now, if we look at our setup, we have to start adding those different menus like we did in the like they have in the example right here, which is description, videos, and reviews. And the way that these were built is with margins to have a rounded selector, and we're going to do the exact same thing right here, just on hover to start. So since we're designing this, we're going to go none, and we're going to go ahead and add some text. Why do I use text instead of buttons? Well, buttons are generally a bad idea to use, just because they don't have the same, they're easier to set up on page, but that's the only redeeming factor that they have compared to other elements, visual elements like text, which you can style to be a button, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So to style text to be a button, line spacing is 1. You cut off content if the element is not tall enough, and then you center the text vertically, and then you center the text horizontally, and then you give it a background color, and you have a button. Okay, they're using roundness on their buttons, and they are Arial. I'm just gonna leave everything Arial because I don't care too much Oh yeah, your line spacing has to be 1, and I'll explain why. If it's 1.5, it won't center properly. If it's 2, it won't center properly. If it's 1, it should remain exactly in the center of the button. Now we look at this and we say, okay, your height is 51, that's fine. So my height here has to be something that makes sense, so let's go 42. And you'll notice that the buttons are very narrow right now, but remember in our responsive views, this is allowed to basically, oh no, at 200 it's not. So let's go ahead and give it 250, just so that this could be a little bit wider. Okay, so now we have our first button. We're also going to give it a hover color. We're going to go conditional when this group is hovered, this text is hovered, sorry. We're going to give it a background style, background color of, let's say, blue for now. And then let's go transitions and background style to be 250. Now let's leave it at 200 because it's easier for me to click on, but 200 is a bit fast. So this is when the text is hovered, and we're going to go when the text is actually the right custom state. So when description is the custom state, it's going to show up with a nice other color. So let's try to do some gradients, and we're just going to keep it is pressed so we can test it until we have our custom states set up. Let's go background style, let's go gradient, and let's go color, and let's go starting color. Let's use this blue, yeah, and let's go a little bit darker. So this is that blue, we're going to go a little bit darker, and we're going to keep it as saturated. And then let's go ending color, and we're going to go that blue but desaturated a little bit. And then let's go background gradient direction, and let's go left. Or actually starting color, yes, so right. And if you do that, we can actually test it out on our preview. And that's the hover, that's the press. So the press will be its state when it's live. And I see that this is not exactly centered, so we're going to play with it. We're going to give it maybe a 1.2. Usually 1 works, I don't know why it doesn't. Maybe it's because I didn't build it out properly at first. This will be what, oh yeah, on the conditionals the text has to be white because, whoops, not the actual text. The font color has to be white, because we're using color inside. So let's go here, font color as well. And if you're using transitions on your font colors, on your background style, you need transitions on your font color. Otherwise it'll look weird. And this one is description. Good. Next, what we don't want is for it to be fixed width. We want it to be a minimum width of 99. And do we want a max width? Absolutely, we want a max width. No, we don't care about max width right now. So let's go ahead and make 3, and this is where we need to start aligning our margins. Holding down Control and dragging it out will give you a copy. Let's center it vertically, Let's make sure our margins here are 15, sure. And here are the exact same, 1, 2, 3, 4 on your right arrow key. And then let's grab all 3 of them, right click on them, and go distribute horizontally. There you go. That's description, but it should now be video. And this one should be reviews. Okay, and next we're going to talk about options once we got this working. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like responsively. Description, video, and review. Wider. Yeah, it doesn't really give it a lot of room to play. And it's a little bit on the tall side. So instead of 42, because we're using such small text, we're going to keep it at 34, I think. Yeah, that looks good. Center vertically. And then we're going to do the same for these ones here, just because it didn't look exactly the way that I wanted them to. Center vertically. And just so we can see them spreading, that's much better. And just so we can see them spread out a little bit more, we're going to remove the fixed width. And that's what they'll look like when they're at their widest state. That looks good. And this is what they look like at their smallest state right here. And it still looks good, so I think we have something that works. Now let's start with options. If you go to your data tab in your option sets, you can add a new option set called view mode and card, product card. Okay, and if I create that, it basically creates a data point, your data architecture and your data types works the same exact way as option sets, except option sets cannot be edited in-app and they load much, much faster because they're static data. And in our case, we don't need to use a data type. We wouldn't actually need an option set either, just for 3 options, but it's nice to know about in case it gets a little bit more complex, in case your app architecture becomes a little bit more complex. So we have our description, video, and review are 3 different view modes for our product card. So we're going to go exactly that, description, and then we're going to go review, video, and review. And now we have 3 option sets. And we're able to access these just the same way that you access data or custom states, but they're options. More data because you have to do a search for and filter, but we're going to talk about that right now. Now, group H is going to be our description, right? So let's design that really quickly. And I'm sorry, I'm not picking fonts today because we have a lot to go through and I only have another maybe hour before I have to take off. So we're going to do these quickly. We're going to make sure our margins are even, and we're going to add some lorem ipsum in this tag. Where did it go? There it is. Yeah. Cicero. Perfect. That's a lot of text, I think. Yeah. I don't think descriptions will be that long, but it's always good to use the longest and shortest things you can find to see if to see if it fits, basically. And then here we can change this to a flat color of none. And this one, let's see what they were doing. Just an underline, I think. It's rounded and it has shading, and this card is rounded as well with a margin. So if we had to do that, which we won't be doing, it would require us to play with all the margins, and I didn't really think that through earlier, so I'm just going to do just a wide with an underline. Let's make sure our roundness is none. Let's define each border independently. Let's go style, bottom solid. Let's go with some cool color like, I don't know, C0. It may be a little bit light for most displays. Yeah, it's going to be light for most displays. There's a accepted contrast ratio that you need to hit, because when you're playing on your monitor, maybe you have a high-end monitor and it looks one way, like C0 actually shows up, or you have a bad monitor with low contrast or an old monitor and it doesn't exactly show up. So I'm putting C0 just for me because it looks good on my monitor, but usually I would pick something darker and keep that in mind as you're designing. Okay, so let's go here and let's take a look at what the lorem ipsum looks like and the description. Where are you? Okay, it's down here because we have our shopping cart summary still. And I think that's good. Video and review. Nice little hover effects, and when we've selected one, it'll be a little bit darker on the right. And then you have your description, which I find to be quite wide. I don't like the 15 pixel margins. So what we'll do is, because we need 15 pixel margins on mobile, we can't just say, make the margins wider. Otherwise on mobile, you're going to lose a lot of real estate, right? Here's a 358 pixel phone. The margins are good because they allow for the dead zones in your touchscreen. And you can click inside, like description, video, and review, and they allow for your scroll bar on the right. So 15 pixel margins are good on mobile, but on desktop they look a little bit shady. So let's go ahead and add a max width here. And let's add a max width of, what are you, 290? And then, yeah, let's add a max width of 100 and see what it looks like. I think it's going to be a little bit wider than 100. Yeah. No. Maybe 125. It's just when it's really, really wide, this looks weird with 15 pixel margins. Okay, so now this is the group that has to show up when it's description. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go collapse when hidden, and we're going to animate the collapse operation. We're going to go fade in, out. I'll explain why later. Let's make it invisible on page load. Let's go conditional when, and then we have to get that option. Okay, so you have a get an option here, or we could say triple pane, and we can automatically assign it a type of content, which is that option that we built, view mode product card, and its default will be data source, and we're just going to pick one. It's probably going to default to description. Now, when triple pane and view mode's product card, the one that we picked, display is, or we could just go is description, then this element is visible true. So we basically created a little while ago an option set with view mode product cards that has a description, a video, and a review. And we now just told triple pane that triple pane has a type of content that is that, and its default value is the description. And when the description is the view mode, then we're going to show the actual description. And we're going to go ahead and just copy that and paste it using Control-C, Control-V, holding down Shift and moving it up twice and to the left twice. We're going to have it aligned exactly the same. And this is description copy, which is no longer that. It is now review. And it shows up when triple pane's view mode is review. And here we'll just type in review for now. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it for video. So let's go ahead left and up 2, and let's go conditional video. So now when we have an option selected, the right pane should show up. Just for a little bit of clarity, we're going to go here video. We're going to go reveal in the elements tree until we can see all the other ones, and we're going to hide review because I don't want to modify that text in case it's on top, and we're going to call this video. Okay, so now we have our 3 little panes, and they'll fade in and out when we select the right view mode. And nothing is easier than selecting the right view mode. You click on any one of the view mode selectors like description, video, review, and you go element actions, and we're going to go display data in a group because the group is triple pane and the data type is description. We're going to go display in triple pane. We're going to pick the data to display. This is text description, so I'll pick description. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other ones. So let's just go back into our workflow. Let's copy that workflow. Let's go to video. Let's go start. Let's paste that in here. Triple pane is, this one is going to show video. And then the last one is going to show review. And that's how you use options, video. No, this is review. I'm doing things backwards because I'm jumping 3 steps ahead of myself. But that's how you use options. We created them, and then we link them to these guys right here. And then when I click on description, it'll be description. When I click on video, it'll be video. And when I click on review, it'll be review. I hate these margins. I have to do something about this. I think we're going to do, we might align it left. Yes. Or we might let another portion snap up on top. It depends on what it is. I just hate the margins for description. We need description to be, yeah. So to fix that, I would probably do something like responsive. I still need it to align to description. Let's show description here. This is perfect like this, but I think I'm going to align it left and give it a max width instead. Yeah. Yep. That's much better. So let's go UI Builder and let's go description, and let's say now it's not pressed anymore. We're going to go when triple pane is view mode product card is description, then this happens. We're going to copy this expression only and paste it into the groups and pick the right video. No, this is review, and pick the correct thing. And now we have basically a triple pane view mode that animates and that changes between description, video, and review. Okay. Are we happy about this? I'm really not happy about this here. So what I could do, I can't give this a max width. What I would do is probably group all of these together and make sure that they have a max width, and then have these panes have a max width as well, so that description sits a little bit closer on a wider screen like that. And because if I move this, it looks weird with this margin here and that margin there. If I align it left, the margin is still too small, and then you have a lot of white space here. So anyways, I would figure something out to make it look good, but we have our 3 panes working, and it looks, does it look similar? It looks close enough. Now, let's check our different views. So on desktop, now we have our picture, our add to cart, and we could pick between these. For desktop, I would have, if I have this line here, I would have other lines coming down here for the selectors, and I would do that for I guess a production app. I would do that for a MVP, I would just leave it this way. Down here, we have to build out a plus minus thing, right? That's price quantity. And here you have just add to card, which should be cart. I don't know. What do we want to do? What's important? Because we don't have that much time anymore. Leave in the comments what you guys want to see. There's 2 of you. Okay, if you guys want to see something special, leave it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll be building out the plus minus and add a little counter because that's something that's useful to know. Let's start with an input and let's talk about states. So here's an input. It's going to be square. I like square inputs because it allows me to give me square buttons as well. Let's remove the style. Let's go center, space, mono. I dislike that font. I don't know why they picked it. Let's go Muley, I guess, 800. And we're gonna pick a font color of almost black. I never ever use black. That's not true. I have used black, but against my will. And yeah, let's go 3838. Background color is fine. We don't want any borders though. Do we want any borders? Turns out we want borders. Okay, and they have to be slightly darker than the background of the other. Okay, let's use the C0 for our borders again, C0. And then we have to find a background color that plays well with them for, yeah, that should be good, for our buttons. And our buttons, like I said, I don't use buttons, I use text because reasons. Let's go and pick a height. 45 sounds good, center vertically. And this one will be our minus button. And let's go 40. Is that what we picked, 40? 45. Turns out I've stopped paying attention. Okay, let's go and bring it to 15. Just so it aligns with description. Let's move it up. Actually, we can center this vertically. Let's pick a large text. Let's center it. Line spacing of 1, center the text vertically, and let's add a plus. This is minus on this side. I don't know what I'm doing. And then that's okay, there you go. And our background color we had said was a flat color of whatever this is. F0. This one will be F. This one will be F0. And this one will have the same border style. Except here, I would, so the first thing to do is to make sure that, okay, a few things. The first thing to make sure is that I picked 45 just willy-nilly. This is smaller than 45. These description ones are at 34, so we want to keep them relatively the same size. 34 is too small, I think. Is it too small? I don't know. I think, yeah, we're going to pick 38 to keep them close to these buttons because you don't want this button to be that much bigger or that much smaller than your other buttons. Let's uncenter and recenter so that it finds its height. And let's do the same thing here. Instead of 45, we had picked 38, I think. Right? Right. And then let's remove the border roundness to 0. And now if I want to give borders to left one, okay. And if I want to give borders to this guy, I have to define them independently because I don't want a 2-pixel border between the two elements. So unfortunately, I have to go and do something ridiculous like top and right nothing, bottom solid, and left solid, and then I have to give them the same border color as this one. Did I pick C? No, C0. Which is just unfortunate and adds a lot to your, not a lot, but adds, you know, some loading time because it needs to calculate the style inline instead of on your spreadsheet, on your CSS sheet. 1, 2, 3. So if anybody has a better idea, do shout out please for how you do borders without defining them independently, because I really don't like doing this. This will be solid, and this one will be none. And we're gonna go C0 here again. And then we're just gonna add a state. So here you'd have to design, right? You'd have to say, okay, when I'm adding quantities for my product, what do I want to do in terms of in terms, where do I want to store that? Usually I'll store it in a state, and I'll say I'll give it to the furthermost parent where it can be used. So our shopping cart summary is going to have basically a summary of our items, but we're not going to have those in our shopping cart until the user actually decides to click on add to cart. And this will be our add to cart button, which is a text. Obviously, again, we're going to have a 15 from the left here, and then we're going to center it vertically. And then it's going to be slightly bigger, and it's going to have no borders. No, not no borders, but like rounded borders. And it will be our brand color, because all of our buttons should be the same color. This should be bigger, and this should be centered, and 1.2. I don't know, sometimes the 1.2 spacing works and sometimes it doesn't. But it'll definitely be this color. And then this one will not be... that's way too big. Let's go with 24 instead. And that should work. Okay. And when you click on the add to card, basically it's going to add the number that's in the state already, and this input will just display the state. So initial content will be the state, and the furthermost parent is the product summary. So we're going to go product QTY, state type, number, create. So now I have to go and every time I load this, reset it to 0, default value. And then when I click on this, I have to add 1. And when I click on this, I have to remove 1. But I can say initial content 0, and this is going to be an integer. I can set a range, and I'm just wondering how this will work, because our minimum range is 0 and our maximum value, let's say we pick something like 5, okay, just for testing purposes. I have a state here. I wonder if the maximum and minimum numbers in here will regulate the actual state. So let's go and say insert dynamic data, and let's go parent group, which is group A's product QTY, and we're going to be able to see how many we have in here, and these two should match. So let's add 1 to the product QTY. I'm an action set state of group A, which I should rename product QTY to be group A's product QTY plus 1, right? And then that's minus button copy. This should be called plus button now. And here I should click on this and I should go paste, but -1. So now I have something that will add and remove quantities, and hopefully until 0, otherwise I'll show you how to add the conditionals after I test it. Let's remove this color, and let's select first parent and remove that color, and we have a sort of a more final design. Let's make sure that these margins are fine. That's 18. Center vertically, what do I get? 22. Okay, I'll deal with 22 for this design. I should have calculated them. Center vertically. Every time I do live stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cut some corners here and cut some corners there, and I end up regretting it. Okay, here's our video, our review, our description, and our add to card here. So let's add. Our summary is 5. Our summary is 0, and we want to go over 5. Yeah, we can go over 5 because this will not regulate it. I don't know why I did that. Group A's product QTY is its initial content. Let's disable the let's not disable the input, and let's right click here and let's go when start edit workflow. When input values A's change element action set state of element product QTY. Group A's product QTY to be this input's value. And finally, my 2 conditionals, only when group A's product QTY is less than, and then your maximum number of products being 5, copy. And for this one, whoops, I should actually just copy the expression, paste it in here, and say is bigger than 0. So now we've effectively capped the products, and we've reduce the minimum to 0, and then we can add products here, 5. There you go. Add this to card now, and then we're gonna have something nice. I find that having these the same color as the add to card button is distracting because my eye doesn't know which one to look at. So what I would do is probably change the color of add to card to have gray when it's 0, obviously, and this one should be grayed out when it's 0. And all of that you can do with your styles. It just takes a while. And is it really, really worth for the, I don't know, 10-15% of users who will notice? In live UI building, it's definitely not. And so we're going to move on here. But generally, we have a nice little thing, and now we have to go back to here and get some more inspiration. Yeah, see, he used a different color. He or she, I forgot he. And I forgot to give credit, so Alex Ayer from Moscow, great designer. You can check out his work in a link in the chat. I put in the behance.net gallery. You should be able to see that if you want to go check this exact project out or give kudos to this designer on Behance. Okay, so now we have to check that everything works well on every device. So far we have a shopping cart summary, which is going to sit right. We have our product summary, and basically our triple pane is going to snap down here. This currently is 1200, is a narrow desktop. And I find that the image is a little bit too wide, so I'm gonna definitely add a thing to fix that. And then your shopping cart here on the right. Now, oh, here's a trick that we could do. Here's a cool trick. Let's go ahead and bring this all the way to the top. And now we're gonna do just a tiniest bit of CSS to make sure that this sticks to the top. Let's remove the roundness to 0. And for those of you who don't know CSS, HTML, CSS is just a language that regulates where elements, DOM elements, so like this group or this group, are placed. And we're just going to do very quickly, we're going to say, hey, if you have, when you load this, here's the style tag, and I'm going to tell you break style. I'm going to tell you what you need to do with different elements, or for instance, the element called full. And I'm going to tell you how it should be positioned. So the element called full will be this one, but currently we don't have the option to add any ID elements to it. So we go to settings, we go to general, and we check this little box, expose the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. I have a video on this you can go check out. And we're basically adding some CSS to it. And we're going to go, hey, we're going to go top, 0 pix. We're going to go important so that we override Bubble's JavaScript CSS injection. We're going to go position, fixed, also important, otherwise it'll be absolute. And Bubble will override that without the important. And we're going to go height, 100 VH, and then we're going to go important as well, and we're going to go overflow Y scroll. And we don't need the important for the overflow Y. So now when I'm on this these settings, I can scroll through the actual product. Nope, we didn't like, oh, we forgot to give it the ID of full. So now this guy's called full, and this guy regulates our CSS for the actual group itself. And you'll notice now, oh, okay, it overrode the left. Why? This was supposed to be easy, send it back. Usually, I've only ever tried this with panes that are on the left, and I don't know why Bubble wasn't able to render it. Yeah, it's sitting behind this group right here. I didn't know I couldn't do it on the right. So let's make it quick and easy because it doesn't matter, it's only on desktop. Let's grab the group B, send to back, and let's grab this. Okay, I put it inside, my bad. Let's put it on this side, and this switch should allow us to have our shopping cart thing stay fixed like that. So our shopping cart will always be visible. When I add it to cart, it'll bring it down on here, and we're gonna build that out. I think we still have a little bit of time. Yeah, we have a bit of time. And then this is what it looks like at its widest, and it looks pretty good, I would say. This guy needs a maximum width though. The group B needs a max width, I think, of 100, and now we're losing our ratios. Our shopping cart will never be wider than this and our product will be, it gets pretty wide on a 4K screen, let's say. And even then, if I was building like this, what we have here is narrower, like you could see, than this here. The proportions, since it's at a little bit of an angle, it seems that its parent is at exactly half, but this one aligns left with the max width. So the more stuff like this you do, the more you try to copy other people, the better you get at using the responsive editor. And as you can see, I don't have all of it set up perfectly yet, but we have something usable. So I'm gonna be happy about that and call it a day. Here the shopping cart gets smaller, and here you only see the product, but you would have a button up here to go to your cart. So far so good. Let's go ahead and build something else out, because I feel like I've just been sitting here talking about this for a long time. Let's go ahead and yeah, I'm not sure what else we talked about custom states in this video. We talked about different design things. We talked about a little bit of CSS, and I think we're gonna call that a day. If you guys want to see the end of this video, do leave a comment in the comments below, and we're going to see if we can't figure out the rest of it. But basically what we did is cover that what you see is what you get is not the way that Bubble works, and that you could do some pretty nifty things with different setups for different devices. And if you want to see the rest of the shopping cart getting created, go ahead and leave a comment. And if you want to see something else that I didn't cover, do go ahead and leave a comment as well. Thanks so much for checking in, you guys that did. I saw a few of you guys come by. Please say hi next time. It really, I really enjoy it when you guys participate. I know last time you guys had a bunch of questions and it was a lot of fun to answer, and this time I just felt so lonely, doing the stream. So go ahead and join me on the next one. I'm gonna start streaming hopefully a little bit more often, and mostly on Sundays in the afternoon EST. So feel free to join me, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.